Is the Cold War legacy lurking in U.S. groundwater? What do I mean by that? Well, is the issue of nuclear arsenals, nuclear weapons, causing a problem with uranium in our water from uranium mills? Let's find out from this ProPublica publication. In America's rush to build a nuclear arsenal that won the Cold War, safety was sacrificed for speed, and uranium mills that helped fuel the weapons also dump radioactive and toxic waste into rivers like the Cheyenne in South Dakota and animals in Colorado. Thousands of sheep turned blue and died after foraging on the land tainted by processing sites in North Dakota, and cancer wards across the West swelled with sick uranium workers. The U.S. government bankrolled the industry, and mining companies rushed to profit, building more than 50 mills and processing sites to refine uranium ore. But the government didn't have a plan for the toxic byproducts of this nuclear assembly line. Some of the more than 250 million tons of toxic and radioactive detritus, known as tailings, scattered into the nearby communities. Some spilled into streams, and some leaked into aquifers. Congress finally created the agency that now oversees uranium mill waste cleanup in 1974 and enacted the law governing the process in 1978. But the industry would soon collapse due to falling uranium prices and rising safety concerns, and most mills closed by the mid-1980s. When the cleanup began, federal regulators first focused on the most immediate public health threat, radiation exposure. Agencies or companies completely covered waste at most mills, dealt the leaks of carcinogenic gas radon, and moved by some waste by truck and train, to impoundments specifically designed to encapsulate it. But the government has fallen down in addressing another lingering threat from the industry's byproducts: widespread water pollution. Now, regulators haven't made a full accounting of whether they properly addressed groundwater contamination. So the first time, they've taken a look at the country's 48 uranium mills, 7 regulated processes, and numerous tailing pipes. We can actually see that right here. You can see the Native American reservations, the trust land, and the various mills across the country. So what happened here? At least 84% of the sites have polluted groundwater. So is there still a problem lingering from the Cold War? I would say there is. And nearly 75% still have either no liner or no partial liner between the mill waste and the ground. So this is a significant problem, leaving them susceptible to leaking pollution in groundwater. In the arid West, where most of the sites are located, climate change is drying up surface water, making the underground reserves increasingly important. And they've seen thousands of pages of government corporate documents accompanied by interviews with hundreds of people. Also found the cleanup has been hampered by infighting among regulatory agencies and frequency with which regulators grant exceptions to their own water quality standards. It has a long history of pollution and sickness. And reports by the government find high concentrations of cancer near a mill in Utah, elevated cancer risk from mill waste in New Mexico that persists until the cleanup is complete. Residents near those sites have seen so many cases of cancer and thyroid disease, they believe the mills and waste piles are to blame, although the epidemiological studies to prove such a link have rarely been done. The government didn't pay attention up front and make sure it was done right. They just said, "Go get uranium," said Bill Dixon, who spent decades cleaning up uranium and nuclear sites with the state of Oregon and the private sector. Tom Herentha grew up near the uranium mills in Colorado and New Mexico and watched 3 of his brothers contract cancer. He believes his siblings were casualties of the war effort. Somebody knew this was a ticking time bomb, an atomic bomb, Herentha said. But in military terms, this was the cost of fighting a war. So was it? I would say this is still a huge problem, and it's actually kind of scary to see, hey, this is something you don't think about, that maybe even this is not a problem. But the only way to really know if your water is contaminated is to test it. That's why it's always a good idea to test your water for things like uranium.